Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's video, I'd like to provide a quick update on the possible DJI ban in the United States. Now, as most of you know, there's been an undercurrent of conversation over the last couple of years about what a danger DJI is to the United States and our security and the spying for China and all these other nonsensical arguments that have put DJI in a bad place. Now, we all know from the research we've done that there's a group of lobbyists that have gotten together and they've been funded by some of the American drone companies to get a hold of a few politicians and convince them that they need to limit DJI's ability to sell into the United States because these commercial drone companies want to own that market. And it's pretty straightforward. DJI makes some incredibly cool drones and other equipment that directly competes with the possibility of those American companies selling into the United States, and they want to eliminate the competition. So don't let anybody fool you that this is about security or spying on China or forced labor somewhere in China. It isn't. It's about protectionism, pure and simple. People are being paid to have an opinion, to convince elected officials to have an opinion, to put legislation through. So that's where we're at. Now, there are three things that are going on right now. There's what I'll call a soft embargo, which means when DJI tries to import goods into the United States, the border group stops it. So border and customs stop it at the border and say, nope, can't come into the United States because you guys are you're on the bad list. You can't get your goods into the United States. Now, some of those goods get through. There are some distributors in the U.S. that have gotten goods. The Mini 5 Pro, I picked that up in New York City at that dealership there in the city. So some of them have equipment, but by and large, DJI is not selling into the United States. And that started a couple of models ago where they really limited the stock that came into the States. And that's frustrating because everywhere else in the world, you can buy a brand new DJI drone, you can buy the 360, you can buy all the new equipment that's coming this year, and boy, there's some amazing equipment coming from this company, but you can't buy it in the US, and it's because of that embargo at the border. So that's the first thing. Makes it really hard to get equipment into the States. The second thing, which is a little bit more ominous, is that during the last appropriations bill that went through for the national defense, there was a clause in there that said DJI has to pass a security audit by December 23rd or they're going to be banned for good. They can't import to the States at that point. And it's not just drones. It's action cameras, it's microphones, it's power stations, it's vacuum cleaners. Anything DJI builds has somehow become a security threat for the United States, and we're not going to let it in. Now here's the weird part. When they put that provision in the bill, no one defined what that test would look like. No one defined what the parameters of that proof of concept would be. They just left it open, and they left it nebulous. So how do you test against standards that haven't been published? And by the way, which organization is going to take responsibility for that testing and approval? That wasn't spelled out either. So the whole thing to me just seems like movement, sort of momentum heading in a direction where there are people in the government that, again, have been working with lobbyists that are trying to get DJI out of the retail space in the US. So that December 23rd date is really important because I don't know how we're going to get it done. It's right now November 8th when I'm recording this. That's a little over a month and a half. Now I know DJI is working in the background because I've talked to them extensively about this to try to get an extension. But honestly, the way the political climate is moving, I don't think they're going to get the extension, which means come December 23rd, all DJI products may be barred from coming to the United States until they pass that audit. Now, they may still try to get the audit done after the 23rd and then have that lifted, but the two things that are in place today are the embargo at the border at customs and this December 23rd date. Now, to complicate it even further, which to me is taking strange to another level, is just last week, the FCC, who's in charge of federal communications across the country, they manage all the bandwidth where we transmit radio signals, TV signals, and all the rest of it on, decided, in their infinite wisdom, to change their policy. So when DJI imports a product into the United States, before they can bring it across the border, they have to submit plans for the technology inside that product that are going to transmit over the airwaves. Now, forever, DJI has been using the standard Wi-Fi frequency of 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz. And by the way, that's used by thousands and thousands of companies out there every day. And they've always gotten FCC approval because they're using standard transmitters that don't exceed the potential for power. They don't exceed what we call bleed, where they're outside of the band, where they could cause noise and interference. So these guys are brilliant in the way they design equipment. So their transmitters are rock solid and they're right on the money. And the FCC's approved every product they've got. Here's where it gets a little insidious. So what that bill basically has inside of it is that the FCC is going to not be able to approve any new products coming into the country from DJI. So basically, when DJI submits that FCC testing parameters, which is pretty well defined, the FCC is going to say, nope, we can't even test it. You guys, you don't belong in the States, which again is bad enough. And that prevents any new equipment from coming into the US. But up to that point, and this is the question we've gotten so much this week, what about the products that have already been approved? And that's where it gets a little sketchy, because up until last week, the FCC would have said no more new products. We're not going to approve any FCC blessing, if you will, for DJI products going forward. But it didn't affect the products that were already in the market. So if you own older drones from DJI, an old action camera, wireless microphones, anything that uses that 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz frequency, you're perfectly fine. You're grandfathered in. That all changed last week because the FCC unanimously voted to be able to go back and rescind previous approvals on products. Now, to me, this is earth-shattering because they've never done this before, and I have to wonder if you've tested it and it's within parameters and it passed your testing and you gave it the green stamp, why would you go back now and rescind it? Now, again, there's a lot of conversations and nonsense around this. A lot of people are saying, well, it's because they're on those public Wi-Fi networks and they can do all kinds of nefarious things on the network. As an engineer, nonsense. They have a proprietary transmission technology between their drones and their controllers, between their action cameras and their applications, that's based on OcuSync for the large part. It's a brilliant technology. It's not standard Wi-Fi where they're just throwing a bunch of commands over a Wi-Fi network. It is riding on the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5.8 gigahertz frequency, but inside of there, they create a private channel for OcuSync that has direct communication with the drone. They're not touching the public Wi-Fi when you're flying your drone or you're using your other products. They're absolutely locking that down inside of this private tunnel that they've created to give you that rock-solid transmission for tens of kilometers away in their drone. So it's not like they're going to affect anything else. But again, I said insidious before. Those folks that are in charge have thought about it and said, you know what? If we ban the FCC communication between the drone and the controller, that effectively lands the drones. So going forward, the FCC at this point has the ability to go back on equipment that's already been approved, that's already flying in the States, and rescind the FCC approval, which essentially eliminates the ability to fly the drones. Now here's again where it gets tricky. They're not going to brick the drones. They're not going to go out there and brick the drones so you can't fly them. But that kind of makes all of us outlaws for putting the drone up because we've got a product that hasn't been approved by the FCC riding in the 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz frequencies. To me, I'm not going to care. I'm going to put the drone up and fly it. I bought it. It works. You approved it. Stop talking at this point. Let me just fly my drone. But it does make us a group of outlaws putting the drone up. Now, the question is, will they do it? Well, the fact that they passed the legislation saying they can do it, the way things have been going, I think they will do it. And I think they'll go back and they'll rescind all those approvals that they've given for previous products. So I guess the bottom line is, how does that affect you if you're flying a DJI drone today, or you own an action cam or a wireless mic or anything that uses their transmission technology? I think you're going to be fine. I think what it's going to mean is they won't be able to import goods at all. They won't be able to import goods for new products because they won't get an FCC approval. And they won't even be able to sell older products into the market that have already been approved, which aren't affected by that border ban at customs. So from every angle, the government has got a full court press on shutting down DJI in the United States. And for me, I know I get really angry when I talk about this because I look at this company as a major innovation engine. They're not just building a cool little drone. There's a lot of companies that have tried to do that. Some are better than others. Nothing comes close to what DJI is doing with drones. But they're not just building drones. They're building some of the best action cameras on the planet. They're building some of the best wireless microphone technology on the planet. Their power stations are unrivaled, and they're up against major players in all of those markets. So how can you pick on a company like this that's at the core of innovation? Now, if you take the government's position, it's a Chinese company. We don't know what China's going to do. Well, you know what? Develop a drone in the States that competes with this, and I'll buy that drone. I'm not in love with Chinese technology or a Chinese company. I fly these drones because they make the best product on the planet. You build a better drone, I move to the better drone. It's the better mousetrap, right? The world will beat a path to your door if you build a better mousetrap. That's the quote. So build a better drone and I'll buy that drone. Make it reasonably priced, make it efficient, and make it fly like this one. I got a couple of options, and that's great. But the thing that turns my stomach is that it's not about competition, it's about protectionism. Like I said at the beginning of this clip, the government wants to prevent DJI from selling into the States, and it's not the government writ large, it's a few politicians that I've mentioned by name on the channel before, Elise Stefanik and a couple of other people in her orbit that have put this legislation through and are marching down Main Street to get it through the government and get these products banned, and I think it's disgusting. So I titled this clip, Shame on You FCC. I don't understand how a government agency that's supposed to support us as consumers would ban a product like this based on nothing but hearsay and innuendo and nonsense and shenanigans. And I'll stand behind that statement with anybody that wants to debate it. There is nothing about this technology that poses a security threat for the United States or a spying threat for the US. It's all about eliminating the competition in this market for American companies to build a drone to compete into that market. And again, from my perspective, nothing's stopping you from building that drone right now. You don't need to prevent these guys from selling. Just build a better mousetrap and introduce it into the market, and you'll own the market. And the last thing I'll say, and I know I'm getting really political here, and this is a bad time to have this happen with the government shutdown. I am so frustrated with our elected officials that we've lost this ability to sit down and have a rational conversation. It's almost like two different football fans that want to fight about whose team is better and your team's an idiot, my team was better. That's all it is. It's become political football. We've elected you to go there and solve these problems for the American public. People are going hungry. People can't work. They're not getting paychecks. Get off your butts, get back in there, and negotiate a settlement to this shutdown, because I can't really focus on this because I know it's a small issue compared to all the bigger things that are going on. But in my world and in your world, when you fly a drone, this matters an awful lot. So end the shutdown, sort out the mess around DJI, and just let them compete like everybody else into the American market so we can all go out there and fly our drones. And that's pretty much it for today. Sorry about that editorial at the end, but I had to get it off my chest. Anyway, if you have any comments, drop them below and I'll respond as quickly as I can. I do have a link down below because I want you to take action. We can talk about this all day long, but if we don't talk to the people that are elected that can impact this, nothing's going to change. So there's a link down below that you can use to send your congressman, your senator, a note to say, what the hell is going on with this DJI ban? Knock it off, right? Help me knock it off. So click that link, respond with that, that note, and let them know that you're upset about it. And this is important. And it's not just important for a goofy guy like me that likes to fly a drone. It's important because people are making their living on this. People are going out and doing commercial photography. They're surveying fields. They're doing rescue work. They're doing volunteer rescue work to find kids lost in the woods. All of that's impacted by this ban. So there's a real important part of this that's beyond just me going out and having fun flying a drone, and that needs to be brought forward so people understand the impact of this, especially in these times where AI is invading every market share. People are losing their jobs left and right because of AI and robots and automation. A drone in the hands of the right person can go out on a Saturday afternoon, put it up, capture some footage of homes, work with real estate agents, survey a field, rescue kids. I mean, it's all upside. So anyway, that's it for today. Sorry I went a little long here, but I had to get it off my chest. Again, thanks so much for watching. Keep the faith. And more importantly, get out there and fly your drones while we still can and enjoy your afternoon. Anyway, that's it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And then until then, stay nerdy.